Elden Ring wasn't always the giant open-world butt-puckering game we know today. Early in development, it seems to have looked much closer to a traditional FromSoftware title than the massive sandbox we ended up getting. And when you dig into the developer interviews, design talks, and all the content that never made it into the final build, you start to see just how drastically Elden Ring evolved over time. Real quick, I want to thank my followers. I had a goal of reaching 50 subs by June, and one video later, I completely blew past it. Seeing the community engagement generally makes making videos like this worthwhile. Thank you. Okay, let's start at the beginning. When Elden Ring entered pre-production, FromSoftware approached it using the same design philosophy they'd refined since Demon's Souls. Dense, interconnected areas, carefully controlled pacing, and deliberate level designs. Developers described their early work as an expansion of what they've done before, not a total reinvention. The earliest versions most likely felt much closer to a Souls-style structure than the open world we know today. FromSoftware's comfort zone was tight, handcrafted environments, and for a while, Elden Ring stayed within that framework. It was the safer version of the game, the version they already knew how to build. But the idea behind Elden Ring was a natural evolution of the Dark Souls formula, taking Souls-like mechanics and pushing them into an open world environment. And here's the part most people don't know. The open world shift wasn't just a design choice, it was inspired. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the lead director, has openly cited Shadow of the Colossus as a major influence. He wanted a world that invoked vastness, freedom, and the unknown, but that desire created a problem. FromSoftware had never built anything like that before. Open world design wasn't something they had experience with. And once they committed to that shift, almost every system had to be rethought. Torrent, for example, was created because traversal needed to work across huge landscapes. Enemy behavior had to be adapted to wide open spaces instead of the narrow Souls-like corridors. The team had to rethink dungeons, bosses, weather, landmarks, and navigation, all the challenges they've never faced before in a Souls game. Even the feeling of exploration changed. Instead of the oppressive claustrophobia of Dark Souls, Elden Ring embraced a quieter, lonelier, I guess almost meditative sense of discovery. That wasn't accidental, it was a direct result of moving from tightly controlled spaces to a true open world. But the open world wasn't the only thing that evolved. The lore changed too, and that's where George R.R. Martin comes in. FromSoftware approached Martin to help create the mythological foundation, the ancient history and deep lore of the lands between. They obviously knew he'd do anything to avoid finishing Winds of Winter, and don't even get me started on A Dream of Spring. Anyways, developers have said that working with Martin influenced the tone of the world, the structure of the demigods, and the way legacies and families shaped the setting. But not all of Martin's early mythology survived. As the game's structure shifted, some of Martin's material was reinterpreted, rearranged, or cut entirely. And that's normal when the shape of the game changes. The story has to change with it, and Elden Ring changed a lot. You can see this by looking at the enormous amount of cut content buried in the files. Entire quest lines were abandoned or rewritten. Rewritten? What word is that? Entire quest lines were abandoned or rewritten. Characters had different personalities or completely different roles. Factions that once seemed poised to influence the world more directly were scaled back or removed. Even major bosses went through multiple iterations. These aren't just leftovers, they're snapshots of earlier versions of Elden Ring, versions that look different, play different, and felt different. And the cut content goes deeper than most people realize. Believe it or not, spirit summons originally had a morale system. Data mines show unused variables for spirit morale, suggesting summons could panic, flee, or fight better depending on the battle conditions. NPC factions were meant to fight dynamically. There are AI packages for interfaction hostility that never appear in the final game. A cut mechanic called Dream Mist existed. It appears to have been a world layering system, possibly letting players shift between the states of the lands between. Great runes were once more complex. Earlier data suggests that they were tied to world states or alliances, not just passive buffs. Some of these ideas survived in spirit, but were mostly trimmed as the open world grew in scope. And speaking of scope, the lands between itself went through a major restructuring. Regions shifted, entire areas changed shape or were merged. Some locations were redesigned so late that their internal file names still reflect older versions of the map. This is a classic FromSoftware formula. Build the world, break it apart, rebuild it into something better. And I mean that. Here's a fun fact about FromSoftware's world-building pipeline. They start with a block mesh. Simple shapes, no textures, just raw geometry. Then they iterate. Then they iterate again. Then they tear it apart and rebuild it. Caelid and Limegrave share internal naming that suggests they were once a single region. The underground areas were originally much smaller and expanded late into development. And the team used landmark silhouettes, giant visual anchors, to guide exploration. But the biggest design challenge wasn't the map, it was the bosses. Open world bosses needed entirely new AI rules. They had to handle mounted combat, huge arenas, and players approaching from any direction. Some bosses, like the Tree Sentinel for example, were originally designed for tighter spaces and had to be reworked. FromSoftware eventually split bosses into two categories. Open field bosses, designed for freedom, spectacle, and horseback combat. Category 2, Legacy Dungeon bosses. Classic Souls design, tight, intense, and controlled environment boss fights. And that leads to another major evolution. Legacy dungeons were created as a compromise. Miyazaki has said that they were built to preserve the classic Souls experience inside of the new open-world structure. Some of these dungeons were originally standalone zones before being integrated into the larger world. All of these changes, the lore, the map, the system, the bosses, ultimately happened because the earliest version of Elden Ring wasn't built to be a game this massive. The moment they pivoted from a Souls-style structure to a true open world, the project transformed into something entirely new. And that transformation is why Elden Ring doesn't look like the game it started as. FromSoftware took a formula they'd perfected for over a decade and willingly blew it up. They stepped away from the safer, linear progression and embraced the uncertainty of building something far more ambitious than a Dark Souls 4. And that's the story we rarely hear, because Elden Ring wasn't supposed to look like this. It became this because developers pushed themselves so far outside their comfort zone that the game had to evolve, mutate, and rebuild itself multiple times before it finally worked. And what we ended up with is something that feels familiar but also completely new. A game that grew from the DNA of a Dark Souls game, but became something bigger than anything that came before it. So again, the version of Elden Ring we almost got was Dark Souls 4. And that's why the Elden Ring we actually have is so impressive. It's the result of a project that had to reinvent itself mid-development. Thanks for watching, and if you like stories about early game developments and concept, please consider subscribing to Forgotten First for more. Thank you again.